Every description in these books are steeped in lore or dripping with flavor. Every little tiny thing that this book references to has that kind of flavor attached to it. Hello, I'm David of 3 Orcs, and today I am going to cover an article I wrote for a random encounter in the campaign of Dolmenwood. Since I've discovered Old School Essentials a few years back, I've been running those wonderful modules at conventions and for some of my local groups here. Modules like Hole in the Oak and Incandescent Grottos. They're a big hit. People love to run through them. They're whimsical, they're fun, they're interesting. They are dripping with flavor. Every room is unique. Every trap is special. Every monster and encounter is got a little twist to it with a lot of flavor. I found when players run through those modules, it piques their interest, it keeps them riveted and engaged. Then Necrotic Gnome came out with their own homebrew campaign called Dolmenwood, which is based on some of the modules that they produced, like Winter's Daughter. So I went ahead and I put in from a Kickstarter, and I ordered all the books and the modules that came with it, and the dice bag. And I'm still waiting for that to be delivered. But he puts out PDF versions of the books for us to use while we're waiting. So far what I've read is fascinating. It's steeped in lore, it's fantastical and whimsical and interesting. And also the artwork is wonderful. It's more focused on the traditional Dungeons & Dragons old school type of D&D play, which involves hex crawling and dungeon crawling and role-playing at the table, interacting and engaging the players, which involves searching and exploration inside of dungeons and also out in the wilderness. If you're interested in the articles I've created for my campaign, which is really my DM notes, I write these articles for myself so I can run them at the table. I usually put it up on a laptop and I have it at my fingertips so I can actually use it while running the game. And I usually paraphrase that information that I read off the screen. I don't just read it out loud. I use it as a reference point for role-playing. But if you want access to those articles, join my Patreon. I have over 200 articles there, spanning both World of Grehawk and the Dolmenwood Campaign. In this video, we're going to cover a wandering encounter. A random encounter is what they call it in the campaign guide. It's more of a half role-playing encounter and maybe a combat encounter, depending on how the players react. I have several groups that I run, and one's a group of 7th graders. You never know what they're going to do. And I also have 2 adult groups where I still don't know what they're going to do, so I try to plan accordingly. I create a lot of dialogue, narration, description. I wrote in my articles a lot of description, narration, and dialogue, so that way I'm ready to go when I'm running this. And as you see soon, I'll show you that in my article I added all that ready to go, so that way I can use it at the table. When it comes to wandering monsters, you're going to want to go ahead and roll that up. That's the traditional way of running a campaign. When the players are traveling outside the dungeon or inside the dungeon, you have wandering monster tables. And one of the things that makes Dolmenwood shine is the wonderful wandering monster tables that they provide in the campaign book. I'm going to take you to page 114, the Encounters chapter. And looking at this article, I see that the beginning of it gives you a little mini description of what this is all about, which is very interesting. Every description in these books are steeped in lore or dripping with flavor. Every little tiny thing that this book references to has that kind of flavor attached to it. Now, we have to go ahead and go through the steps here for standard rolling up a random encounter. So, looking at the chart here, step 1 is roll for the encounter type, which is a die 8. And that's that chart on the right-hand side. And depending on the time of day and whether or not you're on a road or a track or in the wild. In my particular instance, my group is traveling along a major merchant road through Dolmenwood, through the Tangled Forest, near Yellowwood going to Prigwort. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the first track here. Since it's daytime, I'm going to go ahead and pick the first column. So I roll a D8. What I rolled here was regional. I think I rolled a 7. So we'll go ahead and go to the next step, which is pick your creature. So you have to roll a D20. So the next step is we have to go to regional. So we'll scroll down to the chart below until we get to regional. The region my players are traveling through along the Horside Road from Castle Brackenwall to Prigwort is the Aldweald, which is a major merchant road traveling near Yellowwood. Now I rolled a 9. I rolled a 9, and I got some goblins. If you check the Dolmenwood Monster Guide, you'll see that there's a lot of random charts with each monster, and goblins can be merchants from Fairy. And that's what I rolled up when I created that monster encounter. Then the next step is on step 3, which is you roll how many you encounter. I rolled a 2. Then I roll to see if the party's surprised or the goblins are just surprised. Per the rules, surprise only exists, and surprise is only rolled for if there's a chance to be surprised. But if one side is not aware of the other, then they can be surprised. So what I decided, based on the situation and how I decided I want to play this out, I had the goblins automatically be surprised. So the party just kind of rolls up on the goblins along the road there and sees them coming out of this door. And then step 5 is you have to roll your encounter distance. And go ahead and roll for that, and it's generally 20 yards to 60 yards away. In this instance, that it didn't really matter as much because the players could see them coming out the door, and the goblins have not noticed them yet. And then the final step is 6 to see what kind of reaction. Okay, hello from down here. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the article I wrote. So as I mentioned before, I write articles and I publish them on Patreon. Some are free, some you have to be a subscriber, a member of my Patreon. And I have hundreds of articles I wrote over the last 3 or 4 years for the world of Grehawk and the Dolmenwood Campaign. As you can see, this article is about a random encounter with goblin merchants, but I write many articles for different random encounters that are hard to roleplay and wing as a dungeon master, especially a newer dungeon master. If you roll up something random and you're not prepared for it, you're going to kind of fumble over yourself trying to pull this off, this encounter, and portray it, become engaging with the players. And also adding a little bit of the lore of the world into that encounter to make it worthwhile, to give it your campaign a little bit more depth. So what I did is I wrote dialogue, description, and narration, so that way it's ready to go. I don't necessarily read this narration off the page. I pretty much paraphrase it and pause often, so I'll include the players so they react to what's happening in the game, in the scene. And this stuff is ready for me as a springboard to roleplay more, which helps me immensely. Okay, so go ahead and let's take a look at the article. Now, this picture on the right is a goblin from the Dolmenwood Monster Guide. I put it there for myself because these are my DM notes, and I want to be able to show that to the players at the table. In my articles, that picture will not be there. I don't provide any artwork from the Dolmenwood Guides in my articles. But I do have my own artwork that I often add to the articles that you'll see if you go look at them. So this article here is... starts off with a narration and description of the scene, the setup. I like to start off with a scene setup. That way it kind of puts things in place and it helps the players, focus on what's happening around them. It sets the scene. And this description reads that the dense canopy of Dolmenwood silenced the world around, except for a distant hum of enchantments from the Withing Stones. In my adventure, they were passing from the Withing Stones to Prigwort, and that's why I placed this encounter there. But it could be placed anywhere in Dolmenwood. So you can go ahead and just add your own location there and use this from on forward. With every step, the ground seemed to breathe beneath your feet, hinting at hidden secrets below. A faint glow catches your eye. A trapdoor opens, and 2 small figures emerge. Their lanterns casting eerie lights on the forest floor. Their features are grotesquely whimsical, like creatures out of a twisted fairy tale. So that's the setup. Then, I describe each goblin individually. The first goblin bears a grinning feline face framed by wiry whiskers. His eyes gleam with mischief as they dart around, sizing up his surroundings and potential customers. His partner, on the other hand, has bristly, boar-like face with tusks protruding from beneath his lips and wispy beard of thistledown that flowed down his chin. I actually rolled that up in the Dolmenwood Monster Guide, those random tables for describing the goblins. And also, this is pretty much to the point that I was making earlier, that this stuff has already been done. Because if you spend time at the table rolling things up randomly, then it'll slow the game down. And I believe that pace and timing is one of the most important things in running a game, for the players to have fun. So the next step is to do a little bit of dialogue. So they can't just be standing there waiting to get slaughtered or killed like most old modules. They should be doing something. They should be saying something. There should be dialogue, not just standing around doing nothing, waiting for players to discover them and interact with them. So as the players view this scene, they hear them talking among themselves. It helps set the scene up too, and their character. So the first goblin, the feline face goblin, he's leaning on this crooked staff and grinning. He grins widely.
Ah, we've made it, my friend. Well, Dolmenwood awaits us with its riches and wonders. Night fruits, they say, and who knows what else we might find.
And then the second goblin with the boar face, he adjusts his misshapened hat. He twitches his long mouse-like nose.
Indeed, but let us remember our tricks and whimsy. Goblins from fairy, they'll call us. Sly and tricksy we are.
Very obvious, on point, on the nose, but it helps have the players focus. It helps the players pinpoint exactly what they're dealing with very quickly. Next is their animated banter fills the air, and their speech is lively mix of Woldish and Sylvan, a testament to the otherworldly origins. So this next paragraph is more for the DM that he could maybe convey to the players. They have a penchant for mischief. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so you can read this more clearly. I have initial lines of dialogue here to kind of start things off in a general way. Then I got more specific dialogue down below. So to start off things, to get the players to banter and bargain. So the first goblin, still unaware of the players watching them, he's responding to the second goblin. His eyes are gleaming with mischief as he's peering around.
But you know, my friend, we have our ways, don't we?
Then, finally, the second goblin notices the players. So at this point, he'll look at them, and if the players still don't respond or still don't do anything, they're still kind of observing, he'll say,
"Why, hello there!"
His face exclaims in a voice dripping with mock courtesy.
"Step closer, dear adventurer. We've trinkets and wonders plucked straight from fairy."
So the first goblin, still if they haven't responded,
Ah, dear travelers, feast your eyes on the wonders of fairy. We bring you trinkets of enchantment, treasures of the whimsical realms. Objects of desire they are.
If that doesn't get the players interested in bargaining with the goblins, I don't know what will. And then, of course, the next goblin will keep going with him trying to entice the players to bargain with them, to trade. I can also, at the next section, actually lay down some blankets, opening up bags, and they can display these gleaming bottles, these herbs, these oddities that seem to blur the line between reality and dreams. Very exotic things that they're laying out. And if somebody were to buy something from them, I got some basic dialogue here before going into more detail of the items. Like the boar-faced goblin will cackle,
"Ha ha! A choice pick! Dreams stolen from innocent children's slumbers. Distilled into this elixir. Drink it. Enjoy the sweetest dreams amidst any hardship."
And then another one would be,
Or perhaps this. Dawnlight, they call it. No need for mundane torches when you've got a bit of fairy in your hands.
So those are basic common things they could say. But then if they want to look at the fruits and any kind of particular mushrooms that's laid out in front of them, the whiskered goblin could smile slyly.
"Fairy fruits? Delightful treats that heal any fairy wounds. And the frundle mushroom, a rare find, I assure you. Summons a fairy's hand that's almost invisible to mortals."
So we don't tell the players everything about these items. It's up for the players to discover this in the campaign. Not everything that's in the book is available knowledge for the players to know and learn. So before we go into details about the individual items they do have for sale, I have this little thing about the goblin theft because they tend to do this. While the players are looking over the items for sale, and they may fail to notice one of the goblins eyeing like an ornate dagger or something special that's on the player. And as that player would turn to address the goblin if he wants to say anything, all of a sudden he feels a cold breeze. And the dagger is replaced with this insubstantial misty replica that dissipates at his touch. Of course, you don't just read that to him. That's going to play out as you role play with him. But that's what could happen. He's eyeing the dagger, feels the cold breeze. What are you going to do now? He reaches for his dagger, he feels it. It dissipates into a mist or something. So you have to kind of, or maybe the player won't even notice. But it's there for your use. And if they do challenge the goblin because something happened. We stole his item. I have a little dialogue for that. Trade, not theft. So he winks. Choose your items wisely, adventurer. But remember, not all that glitters in Dolmenwood or from fairy is gold. And then they start, sing-songing their offerings. So now we're going to get down to the details. Okay, let's go ahead and go over the individual items the goblins have for sale. Now, I like these items to be interesting and add a little bit more lore to the campaign and make it more engaging and add a little bit more depth to the campaign rather than just having a random monster encounter wasting the player's time from adventuring. And that's how a lot of players look at wandering monsters as. It's a drain of resources and time. Well, I think that if you could add a little bit more to your wandering monster encounters, where it will add more value to your campaign, your players will definitely appreciate it. So these items for sale are interesting in their own right, and they add a lot of flavor to the campaign. Let's start off with the first item, Bottled Light. So I start off with some dialogue of the goblin offering the item for sale. So he'll present it to one of the interesting adventurers, one of the players. Travelers, you look like you could use some illumination on your journey. He says, he grins, and he's rummaging through his cart, and with a flourish he produces a dark crystal bottle, stoppered and sealed with wax. Allow me to introduce you Bottled Light, a specialty of mine. Dawn light captured and contained for your convenience. That should interest the players. What is it? So he holds it up, and through the dark crystal, they can see a soft amber glow that seems to emanate from within. More interest. Unstopper this beauty, and you'll have light that casts. I don't like to use metagaming in my descriptions, in my dialogue, but 30-foot radius for an entire hour. Okay, so I'll probably say cast light for an entire hour. I should rephrase that. And the best part? You can seal it and reopen it as many times as you want. Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. The players are getting sick of their torches and lanterns by now. The goblin's eyes twinkle. And for such a wondrous item, I could part with it for a mere 50 pieces of mortal gold. A small price to pay for light that never fades, wouldn't you agree? And then, of course, the players will hopefully barter for it and buy it. Now, the next thing I went ahead and detailed out was Sweet Dreams. Ah, you're still here. Well, excellent. I may be so bold, I have another rare treasure you might find intriguing. His eyes narrow as if sharing a secret. With a delicate touch, he lifts a small perfume bottle out filled with this translucent liquid that simmers in the dappled forest light. Behold! Behold! The essence of sweet dreams! He holds the bottle. Dreams plucked from the innocent minds of sleeping children and distilled into this very bottle. He grins, clearly pleased with the player's interest, but they responded. Ah, the wonders it holds is twofold. If applied as a perfume, it grants you protection against spells. Quite useful in a forest teeming with magical creatures and lurking enchantments, though there's enough for 4 applications. And then the party will probably ask, what about the second thing? And he'll pause, letting that information sink in, building their excitement. And if you choose to drink it, you'll experience a night of deep, restful sleep, filled with ambrosial dreams, and the most uncomfortable of conditions. Imagine a perfect night's sleep in the middle of the Dolmenwood. For you, my friend, a mere 50 pieces of gold. A small price for such peace of mind, don't you think? So there you go. You got some more interaction. That didn't take long to roleplay. All it was is like 3 paragraphs, short ones. And then the players will offer to pay for it. And if you want to make a charisma check to see if the goblin will come down in price, that's how you want to handle that. That's cool. Then I have Wanton Wisp. Same thing. I describe it, introduces it, offers the price, describes to the player what it does. And I got Fairy Fruit, which is also very interesting considering it has different effects on whether you're mortal or fairy. And as we know, some of the races in this campaign is from fairy. And then we have Mind Moss, which is interesting. Also, the players might be interested in it. And the prices are coming down, by the way. This is 25 pieces of gold. I like saying pieces of gold because that seems more authentic to me. Gold pieces sounds more like meta language to me. Then we got Frondel, which is I wanted to add mushrooms into the deal, so there's mushrooms for sale too. And I found Frondel was pretty interesting. He offers that, and that's it. So those are the items that they have for sale for the players to choose from. And then at that point, the goblins could probably return to their door, close it, climb back into Fairy again, back to the Goblin Market, I believe it's called. And you could probably provide some more rumors, which I didn't do in this article, about where the Goblin Market is and the Goblin King. You could give them a little scant information, like a mention of it, but no details, of course. You don't want to read the book to them. But usually I add that kind of thing, but I didn't do that in this article. I apologize. I just thought about it now. It's a good way to give that kind of lore to the players. So this encounter is a random encounter that's not wasting the player's time or the campaign or the resources. It gives them it gives them value into the campaign to where it actually adds more lore and depth and engagement to bring the world more to life, or to bring this kind of world to life, which is whimsical and fantastic. I hope you enjoyed my article. They're available for download on my Patreon. Some of them are free. Some of them you have to be a Patreon member to actually access those. The articles have my own artwork and some maps and dialogue and narration all attached to it, depending on the article. I also create articles, like I said before, for World of Grehawk as well. So I have 2 camps coming into my channel looking for information and articles for both. I'm pretty much putting out 4 or 5 articles a week because I need these articles because they're really my DM notes. I use these at the table. I use this information here. I use this information at the table for myself running my games. And whenever I'm running it, I come across things that, I need to make an article for that. Good idea, and I'll go ahead and put that on the schedule. If anybody wants anything specific made, something, an encounter or a location or an NPC, let me know. Comment below, and I'll go ahead and put that on the schedule to get that done. Or we can also ask for that, request that in the Patreon as well. May your campaigns be fruitful, fun, and wondrous for your players in the realm of Dolmenwood.